The year is 1817, and Richmond businessman Benjamin Harris is planning a new residential community that he would later name Sidney. This new community is established near Richmond College. This is the original location of what becomes the University of Richmond. On Sundays, residents of Sidney will travel by foot or by carriage into the city of Richmond to worship at First Baptist Church. As the community of Sidney grows, so does the need for a church closer to its residents. By the 1850s, college students from First Baptist are gathering in Monroe Park. They're there to pray and to preach to members of the community. They meet a man named William Hendricks, who invites them into his home for prayer and Bible study. This small group of students eventually becomes known as the Sidney section of First Baptist Church. With the support of members of First Baptist, including the Ladies' Sewing Circle, the prayer group becomes a regular Sunday school. And then it becomes a church plant in the neighborhood of Sidney. What began in the prayers of the students and with the support of the local church? A new church is born. A church that God has led for 150 years to transform nations and generations for His glory. This is the beginning of the church we know today as Grove. It is the eve of the Civil War, and a small group of students are meeting regularly for prayer and for Bible study in the home of William Hendricks. They are collectively known as the Sidney section of First Baptist Church. As war comes to Richmond, it presents an enormous challenge for local residents. Many people didn't leave their homes during the worst years of fighting. When they do venture out, they often carry weapons, even when they go to church. When the war finally comes to an end, work begins to rebuild the city. Work also begins to establish the Sidney section as a fully chartered church. The post-war population surged in Richmond, and the need for new churches was great. In May of 1868, a resolution was passed by the members of First Baptist Church, establishing the Sidney section as Sidney Baptist Church. The new church would have a pastor to lead them. God brought Dr. John Mason Pilcher to pastor the church of 32 members. In less than a decade, God led the church to move to a more populated neighborhood on West Main Street. The church had grown to 143 members. The name was changed to reflect the new location. It was named West Main Street Baptist Church. In 1884, the young church faced the challenge of an economic downturn known as the Panic of 1884. This forced many members to reduce or withhold their offerings. Before long, the church was operating at a deficit of more than $500, a significant amount of money in those days. Yet, in 1887, in the midst of the financial hardship, God led the church to come to the aid of another church that was being established in the city. That church was Pine Street Baptist Church. This church is still active in the community today. As the economy recovered, so did West Main Street Baptist Church. By 1890, the church had grown to 362 members. The church voted to sell its property on West Main Street and purchase a new lot on Grove Avenue. With a new lot came a new name, a name that has remained for decades as Grove Avenue Baptist Church. Grove's first generation of members saw many changes. They would follow Jesus in times of war, deficit, and abundance. The young church would witness God's faithfulness through it all. Grove Avenue Baptist Church, following Jesus yesterday, today, and tomorrow.